In a city like Heartland, Ohio, nothing ever seems to happen, until it does. A string of brutal murders, each one more shocking than the last, has thrown the community into chaos. At first, police thought the deaths might be connected to a drug war, a power struggle between rivals. A missing DEA agent, a couple of local enforcers, a mid-level player, and a crime boss all end up dead. But then something strange happens. A woman who isn't connected to the drug war, a civilian, is murdered. As the bodies pile up, the FBI is called in and rumors begin to swirl. Is this a serial killer on the loose, or something else entirely? Hi, I'm Sarah Blake, and you're listening to Justice in the Heartland, a show where we unpack a story of murder, fear, and an inept police force in the small town of Heartland, Ohio, a community torn apart as they struggle to find the lines between right and wrong. This is episode 2, The First Strike. We hope you'll stick around as we attempt to find out who is committing these heinous crimes, as well as follow the police as they work to make an arrest and put a stop to the violence. The people of Heartland, Ohio are angry. For the past several months, the level of violence from organized crime and gangs has intensified. People don't feel safe and have started asking difficult questions about the role of the police in their community. Many feel that the police can't, or won't, do the job of cleaning up their streets. This week, that violence intensified. But for once, it's not the police of Heartland who are suffering the consequences. This time, it's a member of one of the gangs who has turned up dead. Dylan O'Hara, a small-time dealer and Rossi family enforcer, a figure familiar to many, has met a brutal end. The nature of his murder feels more like a message than a crime. I have to warn you, the details of Dylan O'Hara's murder are explicit and detailed. They paint a vivid picture of his death. If you might be bothered by graphic depictions of violence, you may want to fast forward. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Here's what police say happened. In the early morning dawn of Sunday, August 4th, a passerby found O'Hara's car, a classic '68 Charger, abandoned 3 miles outside of town on Route 27. The police said the doors were open and the engine was running, as though he'd left in a hurry, or been forced to. They followed his tracks through the corn to where he was found in the middle of a field on the other side of a cornfield about a mile away. It looked as if he'd been hunted. His body bore the marks of a struggle, cuts, torn clothes, 1 shoe missing. His hands were bound tightly with zip ties, and there was the unmistakable precision of an execution, 3 9mm gunshots, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, by a calculated hand, someone with both skill and patience. Then there was the arrangement. Small, neatly torn bags of cocaine scattered over him, dusting his clothes, even poured into his mouth, an eerie punctuation to an already chilling scene. By the time the police found him, birds circled, pecking at what remained, a macabre sign of nature reclaiming what was left behind. Dylan O'Hara's death wasn't a random act of violence. It was far too deliberate. Someone put thought into this, went through calculated steps, tracking him down, isolating him, and executing him with an almost cold, tactical precision. It leaves me with a troubling question. Who would have both the skill and motivation to kill him like this? What message are they trying to send, and to whom? Police believe it's a rival dealer, or maybe someone higher up on the food chain who saw him as a liability. In this world, even the smallest mistake can trigger ruthless consequences, and O'Hara had his fair share of enemies. But something doesn't add up. Gangs prefer to keep things simple, quick. Police deny it, but there's another possibility. This feels different, personal even. In a world where so many cases get overlooked or brushed off, it would not be surprising if someone felt like they needed to take matters into their own hands. He was tortured and then killed. It suggests someone with a message to send. Under the surface of downtown, there's a palpable feeling of rage boiling. People are afraid, but they are saying they want their community back too. If this was vigilante justice, is there someone in town who's capable of this kind of precision? Maybe even enjoys it? The zip ties, the precise gunshots, the drugs scattered as a symbolic insult? It almost feels theatrical, like someone wanted us to see this and feel some form of macabre satisfaction at O'Hara's death. Either way, the community's reaction is split. Some feel his death is a dark, but necessary cleansing, while others can't shake the feeling that this is just more of the same. Claudia Cohen expressed this very sentiment when I talked to her in her shop. Claudia is the kind of woman everyone in town knows. She's been running the small convenience store on the main street for over 20 years, a place where locals stop by not just for their morning coffee, but to catch up on the latest news. Claudia has always been fiercely protective of her corner of the world. She's seen kids grow up, families come and go, and more recently, the rougher edges of the drug trade have crept closer to her doorstep. She's a tough woman, Claudia. Stubborn, outspoken, and completely unafraid to voice her opinions. If something bothers her, you'll hear about it. For years, she's been one of the few who openly confronted the dealers and addicts lingering near her shop. She'd call the police, chase them off herself if she had to. Dylan O'Hara was no exception. But there's more to Claudia than just her tough exterior. Underneath, there's a genuine care for her community, a belief that people should feel safe where they live. Dylan's death has given her a sense of relief. She's made no secret of that. In her eyes, his death has restored a bit of peace to her doorstep. She might be relieved Dylan's gone, but there's a new worry in her eyes, a sense that whoever took him down might not be done. She's been around long enough to know that violence like this, it rarely stops with just one person.
Look, I'm not saying Dylan was innocent. He'd been dealing for a while, and well, people here knew what he was up to. Him and his friends just waltzed in and took over the corner outside the shop. They'd come in and take what they wanted. I'd say, Dylan O'Hara, I know your mama. How do you think she'd feel if you were there stealing from an old lady you've known your whole life? He'd throw some money at me and act like he was tough, but I saw through that. Others noticed them out there at the corner, too. It got to the point where people were scared to even walk past here. Scared their kids might see something they shouldn't. And for what? Nothing but trouble, day in and day out. Now look around. I haven't been this busy in months. People are coming out, kids are buying candy. I'm going to have to call up Beatrice and ask her to come back and man the sandwich counter. I don't know who did it, but you know what? And I hate to say this, I did know that kid since he was little, but good riddance. I just hope his mama isn't watching from heaven. That would break her tiny little heart. I guess I am worried about one thing. I worry that this might get worse before it gets better, and I don't want to see any people hurt. I don't want to trade one fear for another, so now I'm just waiting, wondering what's coming next.
Claudia Cohen's relief is tempered by a new anxiety, an unease that the peace she hoped for might be fleeting. Mark Harlan's been here longer than most, a fixture in the community, almost like the courthouse clock tower, reliable and unchanging. He's lived through every wave that swept through this town, from bustling prosperity to the quiet, sometimes tense, lull of recent years. Mark's always been the cautious type, the kind of man who locks his doors even in the middle of the day. He's seen things change, in ways he doesn't fully understand, but he's done his best to roll with it. If you ask him, he'll tell you he's not afraid of much. But Dylan O'Hara's death, that's different. Like others, it's not just the fact that O'Hara's gone, it's how he went. Mark has seen his fair share of fights and rivalries, but he said this feels colder, more calculated. He's haunted by a question that's been circling in his mind and everyone else's mind since O'Hara's body was found. If someone's willing to go to these lengths to take out one person, where does it end? When I talk to him, it's clear he's nervous. Mark won't admit it out loud, but I can see it in his eyes. He's worried. For the first time in his life, he's feeling like a stranger in his own town.
You know what I think? I think it's them dang video games that got everyone angry at one another and all that fighting. That's something you mostly see in your bigger cities, but not here. Well, used to be not here. You know, folks around here back 50, even 60 years ago, they were different. People back then, they look out for one another and didn't always say eye to eye, sure, but there was this respect, a sense that we were all in it together, even when times got hard. People had their differences, but everyone knew their place. You never saw anything like this. Yep, back then, folks here went through some rough patches too. Sure, every once in a while you hear about fights breaking out down at the old stone tavern, people running wild, getting mixed up in things they had no business in. Come to think of it, we did have a spell back in the day where you couldn't go a week without hearing about someone's barn catching on fire or folks' livestock going missing. We had chalked it up to bad luck. And there's a different kind of fear back then. What with Nixon and the war, Nam and all, like we were all just waiting for the next spark to catch. The sheriff tried to keep things calm, you know. What, back then you couldn't have a couple beers and drive around if the sheriff caught you. He'd just drive you home and leave your car on the side of the road. But there were accidents, you call 'em. Folks found on the side of the road, roughed up or worse. We don't talk about those days much. Now too many memories folks rather leave buried. We thought that chapter was closed. Today, it's like everyone's on their own. People don't talk, don't trust each other like they used to. And what happened to Dylan? 50 years ago? Nobody would have dreamed of it. Sure, maybe some folks would have given him a piece of their mind if he was stirring up some trouble, but this was something else. Cold, planned, like he was hunted down. See, Dylan, he wasn't just some neighborhood troublemaker. He owed money, and not just a little, to some folks that don't play nice when you don't pay up. Word around here, he got mixed up with people from out of town. Big time monsters, maybe. I know they say that ain't a thing, the mafia, but come on, that ain't fooling no one. These the kind who show up, take what they owed, and make a mess on their way out. You knowed what we do with them back in my day? Those gangsters, we run 'em out of town, or worse. But now, what happened to 'em? The way they left 'em, it almost feels like it's a warning, you know? Like they're saying, we're here and we ain't leaving. It don't sit right with me, bringing that business to our streets. If that dang fools would have nipped this all in the bud when it started, we might not be in this mess now. But they ain't doing much about it, the police, and it feels like they're losing our town. Between you and me and this microphone, I don't feel safe anymore. Not my own home, not in these streets. And I'm not the only one. People don't want us to say it, but we're all scared. We all know there's a couple more like Dylan running around out here, and we're wondering if he's gonna stop with him or get worse.
Mark's words linger, a reminder of the fear spreading through the town. To help us unravel the mystery, we've turned to Detective Lisa Ortiz, a seasoned investigator with years of experience handling complex cases. She's been at the forefront of this investigation, working diligently to piece together the details surrounding O'Hara's death. When we spoke, she shared some details about the ongoing investigation and the challenges her team faces as they investigate this crime.
Well, as you'd imagine, there's only so much I can share right now. But I can tell you that we're covering every angle, every lead, no matter how small. Our team's working round the clock on this. With a case this unsettling, we're treating each piece of evidence like it could be the one that cracks everything open. By the time we got there, locals had been all over the scene, but we started combing through the scene anyway. Forensics was on it immediately, collecting any trace we could find. Footprints, fibers, any items that could give insight into what happened in those last moments. It's methodical work, and now we have to eliminate anyone who was there. But every piece counts. Now that I think about it, did I see you there?
Oh, yeah, I was there, but I kept my distance. I told everyone not to trample around the crime scene, but I think they had to see for themselves.
Well, we wish no one got there before us. Now there's all these photos of Dylan O'Hara's body online, and everyone keeps saying it's not real. It's AI. Anyways, we're also bringing in some specialized units to help analyze, well, the more unusual aspects of this crime. We've been talking to people close to Dylan, those who saw him that night, and anyone who may have had reason to cross paths with him. We're going beyond just friends and family, too, checking in with other folks in town who might know more about the people he was involved with, especially in the drug circles he ran in. If any of your listeners have information that can help, they can call the station and someone will take their information. Of course, we're speaking with a few familiar faces, people who may have had past interactions with Dylan. He was out and about that night. It's possible we might pick up something on the security cam. There's others, people who might want to see him gone. We're casting a wide net, keeping all possibilities open. I can't say much more, but the team is taking this very seriously. This wasn't random, and we're going to figure out why this happened and who's responsible.
Any details you can share that point to a suspect or what actually happened out there that night?
One detail we can confirm is the unusual method of killing. The way Dylan was found, executed with precision and left in a public area, suggests a level of planning that's concerning. It's not typical for a low-level dealer like Dylan to be targeted in such a brutal manner. This indicates there's likely more at play than just a personal vendetta. It could be part of a larger power struggle within the drug trade, or even a message intended for others involved. We suspect someone from out of town. We're working to determine if this was a targeted hit related to his activities, or if it was collateral damage in a much bigger conflict.
As the heart of this community, the church has long been a place for reflection and healing. Pastor Isaac Mercer has witnessed the changes in Heartland and feels the weight of the recent violence deeply. His perspective is a reminder of the values we hold dear and the compassion we strive to maintain in the face of darkness.
You know, it's easy to look at someone like Dylan and say he got what he deserved. We've become so quick to judge, so eager to cast stones, forgetting that we all have our struggle. This isn't just about one man's life. It's about the heart of our community. Now's the time when we need to stand together, support one another, no matter how tough things get. We can't let fear and suspicion seep into our hearts. We're pointing fingers instead of looking within. It troubles me deeply that we've allowed ourselves to believe that violence and judgment are acceptable solutions. We should be better than this. We should be offering compassion and understanding, not casting aside our neighbors because they've made mistakes or they're different than us. When did we stop being a community that embraces love and forgiveness? We're in a dark place right now, and if we don't change our ways, we risk losing not just those who wander off the path, but ourselves in the process. The Bible offers us guidance in troubled times, reminding us of the importance of love, mercy, and forgiveness. In the book of Matthew, we are taught to turn the other cheek and to love our neighbors as ourselves. But in moments like these, when fear and anger grip our hearts, it's easy to forget that message. The scripture urges us to seek justice, yes, but they also remind us that vengeance is not ours to take. In Romans, it says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." We must resist the temptation to allow our community to be driven by fear and retribution. Instead, we should strive to be a light for one another, to foster understanding rather than division. I believe that if we turn to our faith and lean on each other, we can begin to heal and find a better way forward. But we have to do it together, with open hearts and a commitment to love rather than hate.
I'm standing on the sidewalk outside the police headquarters, where a crowd waits for Chief Thompson, who is scheduled to answer questions about the investigation. Palpable tension hangs in the air, and there's a sense of frustration as residents seek answers about the investigation and the rising violence in their once peaceful town. Here he comes now.
What are you doing to keep
We
us
can't
safe?
just stand by.
You need to tell us who's responsible.
People, if you give me a minute, I understand your concerns. We're investigating every lead, but we need your patience.
Liar, 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 liar.
This is unacceptable. We're doing everything we can right now. That's all I'm going to say.
Wait, where are you going? We need answers.
Coward!
You coward!
Coward!
Coward! This is
Coward!
ridiculous! Coward! 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 Coward!
As tensions rise in Heartland, it's clear that the community is demanding accountability. But with answers still elusive, the fear of what might come next looms larger than ever. As we conclude today's episode, we must now confront a shocking turn of events that has sent a ripple of fear through Heartland and added another layer of complexity to the case. Just as we were grappling with the aftermath of Dylan O'Hara's brutal murder, another body has been discovered. This time, it's Brent McNally, Tony Rossi's right-hand man and enforcer. Join us next time as the case intensifies.
Yo, this wasn't me, alright, bro? I know how it looks. I get it. Yeah, I made mistakes in the past, but I'm trying, bro. I'm trying to do better, you know? I pay my price. I've done my time. Can people just let me live my damn life now? Just because I got a record, just because I was in that world before, don't mean I'm capable of this. I didn't kill no one, bro. I didn't do this.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe in your favorite podcast app. And don't forget to like, follow, and share. Stay with us as we uncover the truth behind these violent crimes and what they reveal about the heart of Heartland. You won't want to miss it.